But whatever. I think I need to do some on this side. Here we go. There we go. One there. One there. One there. And we're getting close to the bottom now. Now this actually leads straight to hell. So I'm gonna have to jump right before the bottom or else I'm gonna die. Obsidian tunnel. And here we are. Welcome to hell. Population death. However, I would prefer not to stick around here too long. Just for the fact that I just want to get the hellstone and then book it. As you can see, there's a shadow chest right there at the bottom. The only problem is I can't open it yet. And that would be because I don't have the necessary key to open it. Okay, I don't know how my hotbar is situated. I meant to use my gun for that. The more you know. So this is pretty much just that's gonna be lava coming toward me. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I think down here I'm pretty much just going to talk about things that have happened to me recently. I mean, it's been over a month since I posted Terraria, and I think over 2 months since I've actually recorded it, because I get really lazy after I record things, and I don't upload them on time, because it takes a while to upload them and render them, you know. I'm just a very lazy person. But, over the course of those 2 months since I've last recorded, we finished our research for sophomore year at school at Butcher. For those of you who don't know, it's like the biggest project of the year that determines whether you pass or fail the grade. And if you don't do well on it, it's not going to look good to anybody. And I am taking a lot of hits here. And me and my partner, we had our metal, well, god dang it, I don't know where to start with this. Okay, I guess I should start from the beginning. Before research started back in January of 2013, January or February-ish, we had to do a lab in chemistry, a normal chemistry lab, where we were given a metal and we had to determine its density. And from determining the rod's density, we could determine what the actual metal was, what element it was. So, after we determined that mine and my partner's metal was tungsten, we finished that lab and everything. Then a month later, February-ish, around this time, or around that time rather, is when we started doing research. And what research was is that your partner from that lab previously, you guys would take your metal that you found, which in our case would have been tungsten, and we are given another metal that we don't even know what it is, and by using specific heat and linear thermal expansion properties of the two elemental rods, we have to determine if the two metal rods are the same element or if they're different. And the research took about, initially, I think it was like 3 to 4 weeks to get some background information on the metals for a formal paper. And then we had to actually carry out the experiments, which were 2 weeks, I think, approximately. Approximately 2 weeks, yeah, that sounds about right. And during those 2 weeks, each set of groups, I think there were 10, no, there were 12 groups. No, there weren't 12 groups, were there? I don't know, my memory's crap. But, well, hang on, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, yeah, there are 12 groups, I'm right. There are 12 groups, for the 20th time after saying that, and each of those groups had a different initial rod. And they were also given a different rod to figure out. Now, the rod that we were given, just by looking at it, we could pretty much tell, yeah, this is probably the same. Feeling the weights of it, they were probably the same. But we still carried out the experiments over the course of the 2 weeks. And a funny thing is that apparently when the teachers designed these experiments for us to use, they didn't design them too well, given the materials that we used. The experiments were designed to use extreme precision when recording values such as mass, alpha coefficients, lengths. They were supposed to use like very specific values down to like the 10,000th of a decimal. And if those were off, it would skew our data tremendously. Now, since the materials that we were given to use by the school and what we could afford to get on our own weren't that great, we had percent errors of like 50 to 60%, from 30% to like 2%. And what percent error is that the higher your percent error, well, I shouldn't say the higher, the further away from 0% your percent error is, the more likely your experiment is said to be flawed and that your data is not worth using. Now, since everybody was getting these really high percent errors with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 groups that kind of could figure out a way around it, I guess, everybody had really high percent errors that were like 50 or negative 50% and above and below that margin. Mine and my partners, we had everything from 0.01% to 200%. It was pretty difficult to read. But we still carried on with the experiment and we went through it like normal because we didn't exactly have time to redo it all as what our data would have suggested that we redo the whole entire thing. And that could have proved wrong, but it is just a school project after all. I mean, granted it is the biggest one of the year, but there's only so much we could do with just the school project for sophomore year. But after that was all said and done, then we had to take another week or two to compile the paper and write a data analysis and observations along with a conclusion. And our paper was roughly, I want to say 35 pages long, and I think there was one kid in our class, his was like close to 70. It was a long paper. But this is actually pretty normal for us, and it's kind of funny when I go back to my normal school because when I go to Butcher, it's at a different school because it's in a different school district, so I'm there for half the day, and then I'm at my normal school for the other half of the day. And when I go back there, the seniors are doing their senior project at my normal school, and they're like, man, I have to write a 20-page paper, and I'm just sitting there laughing, and I'm like, you don't even know. 20 pages is nothing if you know what you're doing. But that's how I get my little laugh out of it. But after we were done compiling the paper and turned that in, we had to turn it in to 2 teachers. Our computers teacher, for lack of a better term that's more understandable, and our chemistry teacher, because she's the one who's pretty much designed the whole entire experiment. I mean, it's part of her class, chemistry. Oh god! It's part of her class, thermochemistry. And that's something I don't want to mess with. But then after the paper was turned in, we got our grade back on that, and I think we got an 89% on it, which is pretty good, considering everything that went wrong in there. There was just a couple of errors that we had, obviously. There were minor ones. We should have actually found them and fixed them before we turned it in. I kind of blame myself for that, because I was more the proofreader out of me and my partner. And then after that was all said and done, we had to actually create a PowerPoint presentation that we would have to present a week later. And the thing that me and my partner did with our presentation wasn't exactly the smartest idea in the world, because we made it with like 2 or 3 days to spare, which is a very bad time because we're also supposed to practice in that time. But me and my partner decided we're not really going to practice because I like to think of myself as a good presenter, because when I used to present things beforehand, like years before, I could just do it right on the fly. It would all make sense. Teachers would never know. In fact, I was actually complimented one time back in 8th grade where I had to do a presentation, and my teacher went up to me and she's like, you really know your stuff. You must have practiced this religiously. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a pretty good practicer. I like to do my work good, and truth is, I just made it up all on the spot that day. I just know how to keep words flowing when I know what I'm talking about, so to say. That's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing YouTube, so I could actually improve myself doing presentations and speech talks, because I can actually hear myself talk as well as have something to talk about and figure out things to say concerning that topic. Granted, I don't think it's the best method of doing it, and I don't think I'm superb at it, but I would like to think of myself as pretty good at it. But nevertheless, without practicing it and making the PowerPoint at one of the last possible moments, did I get everything in here? I don't think I did. But with presenting at the last possible moment, the day came to present. It was a Friday morning, so I was still kind of tired. And the presentations were supposed to be around 10 to 15 minutes long. Or no, not 10 to 15 minutes long, what am I saying? It was supposed to be around like 10 to 11 minutes-ish. And if you went 10 seconds over, it was like a 1% deduction from your final score, as well as any other errors that you had. Since me and my partner didn't really practice together, we didn't know what we were doing per se. And our presentation ended up being about 15 to 16 minutes long.